Here's the judge unloading on him for asking this unethical Fifth Amendment question. You have the right to remain silent. It doesn't imply guilt at all. Check this out.
Why would you think that that made it okay for you, without any advance notice, to bring this matter before the jury? I was astonished when you began your examination by commenting on the defendant's post-arrest silence. That's basic law. It's been basic law in this country for 40 years, 50 years. I have no idea why you would do something like that. And it gives, I'll leave it at that. So I don't know what you're up to.
I think the judge was ready to unload even worse on this guy and how to restrain himself. Folks, I'm not kidding. I'm not an attorney. I don't pretend to be one. It's not one of those Holiday Inn Express jokes either, okay? But I've been around enough attorneys and enough prosecutions to know basic facts of our judicial system like this, even from the prosecutorial side. You don't bring up an invocation of the right to remain silent and imply it means you're guilty. It is a major league no-no. There's no doubt in my mind this prosecutor knows that. Zero doubt. So why would he do it? Let me explain to you what I think's going on behind the scenes here. Dealt with a lot of prosecutors, ADAs, AUSAs, city states attorneys. They are people too. They care about their reputations. The prosecutor assigned to this case, there's no doubt he was probably a high-profile guy in his office. Here's the hard reality. And listen, you put a few drinks in any prosecutor at the federal, state, or local level, they'll tell you this. Folks, they're all people too. They love to be on TV. I'll give you a quick example, right? There was this assistant United States attorney when I was a federal agent, right? He didn't want to take any of the cases we were bringing him for financial fraud. I tell him we have a case about a guy's identity being stolen, a basic identity theft case. Seriously, it was not a federal case at all, but I knew this guy. I knew all he cared about was being in the papers, right? The case involved a guy who was a character in a movie. It was a movie made about this guy, all right? I knew when I called him, he'd want to take the case. Now, why'd you call him, you may ask? Because you had to get a declination. We were federal agents. You had to get a declination from the federal United States attorney before you brought it to a local state's attorney. You had to. So I had to call him. I knew this guy was going to want this case. I call him. I'm like, I'm not going to say who it was, but I'm like, hey, this guy. He's like, whoa, that guy? I'm like, hey, he had his identity stolen. Oh, man, we should take a look at that. I knew it. You know why you want to take a look at it? Because he knew when the guy's name made the papers, he'd be in the papers too. I'm not telling you it's their only motivation. I'm just telling you they're people. Prosecutors are people. They love their names in the paper. They love to be famous. I'm dead serious when I tell you, I think this guy put himself on this knowing he would get in the newspapers, thinking he was going to get a better judge, thinking there would be a plea deal or whatever it was. Now he goes to trial. He finds out he's going to be humiliated and embarrassed and take an epic loss that'll turn up on his search engine every time his name is put in Google, DuckDuckGo, or anywhere. And now the guy's embarrassed. I think he wants a mistrial at this point. So he's doing things knowingly, invoking the Fifth Amendment right to remain silent as an implication of some guilt. He's doing it knowing the case will be declared a mistrial or should be declared a mistrial. So he could say, hey, I didn't lose. It was just a mistrial. Simple mistake. Now, I'm not the only one who thinks this. I'm not even close to the only one who thinks this. Alan Dershowitz, whether you love him or can't stand him, he is a talented lawyer. Dershowitz was on Hannity last night. And Dershowitz was talking about this exact same thing, how this prosecutorial misconduct here cannot be by accident. This has to be deliberate. He is sabotage. He is in a French accent. That'll make sense in a minute too. Sabotage, Jose, you know what I'm talking about. The French accent, the awful French accent coming up, I promise. This is sabotage. I'm telling you, Dershowitz knows it too. Check this out.
Well, first of all, let me tell you what's really going on here. What's really going on is that the prosecutor wants a mistrial. He wants a mistrial without prejudice because he doesn't think the trial is going his way. The judge doesn't want to be the one to declare a mistrial because he's not going to be able to go back and get opportunity. He wants the jury to acquit. And so what the judge is angry at is that the prosecutor is trying to put him in the position of creating a mistrial, which then the prosecutor says, hey, it's the judge's fault. It's not my fault. I've seen this tactic used by prosecutors before. Now, that's why the judge has the power to dismiss the case with prejudice, but judges don't want to do that. They want to have the jury acquit. They don't want to acquit. So this is even a worse ethical violation, possibly, than what the judge has said. But the judge doesn't want to surface it because the judge doesn't want to say, oh, you want to provoke a mistrial. But that is what I think is going on.
You get it? You get the double, triple reverse psychology here? The prosecutor probably thought he'd get a plea. He didn't get a plea. Rittenhouse went to trial. He probably thought Rittenhouse would get a bunch of incompetent attorneys and he'd win anyway. He didn't. He now knows not only is he losing, he's being humiliated. The prosecutor's star witnesses are telling stories that are against the prosecution. They were forced to change their statements. One of the people who was shot said, oh, I was only shot after I stuck a gun in the guy's face. The case is melting down. The prosecutor then says, oh, you know what? I'll just do really stupid stuff like this Fifth Amendment thing, implication of guilt, which is totally unethical, knowing the judge will toss the case. The judge doesn't want to toss the case because the judge knows what the prosecutors do. You get the double, triple, quadruple reverse psychology. The judge is smart. He knows what the prosecutor's doing, and he doesn't want to be responsible for throwing this out. He wants the jury to throw the case out because he sees the prosecutor is not building his case and is not building anything close to beyond a reasonable doubt. The judge wants the jury to figure it out, not him. But the prosecutor keeps doing dumb stuff, pushing the judge over the edge at some point, and that's why the judge is so furious. Because the prosecutor's trying to push his malfeasance onto the judge and make him a part of it.
You just heard the Dan Bongino Show.